Hey everybody, it's Colette Baron-Reid and my executive producer Connie Diletti, and we are here with Woo Squared, another episode of us talking about, well, I don't know yet because Connie hasn't told me. So
Woo, a big
usually,
surprise.
hey, it's pretty interesting, so I've heard. So Connie, what is the subject that we're supposed to riff on today?
Well, today we are going to continue our discussion in the spirit of your business, which is
Cool.
a under the umbrella. I just want to share this for any new listeners. That spirit of your business is an umbrella that will include fireside chats with Colette and a new podcast series we have coming out this fall, basically about the spirit of your business and spirituality.
I'm very excited to talk about this, and I'm super excited also of our guest list for our Spirit of Your Business podcast series coming up,
Mhm.
and of course the fireside chats, which are my new course upcoming, based on all the people who have asked for my advice around entrepreneurship. So yay us!
Yay us and yay to some people who wanted to be the early bird to catch the worm, and have some people have actually sent in some questions that they were hoping you could address. So we're gonna
Do it.
start with one of those. So the question is, Colette, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? I feel like I've never been, quote, good enough. Who am I to claim I'm spiritual enough to teach another? Can you help?
Yeah, so when she actually said who spiritual enough to teach another. So I'm going to make an assumption on that question,
Mm.
that she's talking about a spiritual type of business, or that incorporates spirituality. And we're really addressing all kinds of businesses. Like you could be listening to this and sell pencils. It's
Mhm.
so we take a spiritual approach to business, but we don't necessarily focus strictly on spiritual type of businesses. So I want to make
Mm.
sure that's clear for all the listeners, so you don't tune out
Mhm.
because I have something interesting to say.
So tune
So
in.
yes, imposter syndrome is kind of interesting.
Mm.
And I've suffered from the not enough off and on for my whole life because
Mhm.
it was just the way I was raised, too, that if I didn't get straight A's, I'd get in trouble, that kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
and my parents were really focusing on academia, which is, hard work will get you the results. And there was a
Mhm.
lot of competitiveness around, being the best, that kind of thing. But over time, I recognized that I was not the only person on the game board. So when I was worried that I wasn't enough or didn't know enough, etc., I was really forgetting that I had a partner in the universe, right? That I also
Mhm.
had a partner in a higher self and in spirit, and that I was only able to do what I had learned about life and my life experience and everything that I am up until the point where I was opening my mouth, for example.
Mhm.
But I mean, if I could address this in terms of when I've made speeches, for example, and I'd got up there and I didn't know who was talking because my mouth would move and all of a sudden this incredible stuff would come out of my mouth. And
Mhm.
I'd be like, whoa, I didn't know I knew that. And it was because I had surrendered before I opened my mouth to spirit. And I don't always do that. And I notice that when I don't do that, it's not as good. So I'm realizing that I'm always in awareness that I have a partner in my business, in my work, in my teaching, in my creations, because I'm also an artist, right?
Mhm.
Anytime I
Mhm.
step forward into something, I ignite and really activate the remembrance, the awareness that I have a partner. So I'm not there by myself. And when I surrender, like there's a beautiful it's a little poem that I heard when I think I was in nursery school, and you
Mm.
might know it because your child is really young. When they
Yeah.
say, "God be in my mouth and in my speaking," God be
Mm.
in my eyes and in my
Yeah.
seeing, God be in my mouth and in my speaking, right? So it's that,
Mm.
right? It's that
Yeah.
idea that I will be used in service on behalf of the divine. And
Mhm.
then the onus of being then how are you an imposter when you're actually in service? So you're basically taking,
Mhm.
you're taking your cues and your intuition, your intuitive hits. Because really imposter syndrome is about an ego. It's the things
Mhm.
that we've been conditioned to see ourselves as. Let's say, for example, you were conditioned to believe that you weren't good enough because of your social standing, or because of your education, or
Mhm.
because of your sex, or because of your
Mhm.
race, or because
Mhm.
of a gazillion other reasons. Like we can list them all and tick, tick, tick,
Mhm.
tick, tick.
Mhm.
That becomes our view of ourselves. We can't help that. That's what we learn. Our environment gives us cues, our, families, our culture. We all come to the table with a bit of imposter syndrome. So, because we want to be something that we think we're not, but the truth is we are born worthy. I love the work of Matthew Fox, for example. He talks about born blessed, that we are not born in sin, we are born in blessing. And that the word sin means that we miss the mark, that we are born in blessing, that we are actually born blessed. It was fascinating. I mean, he has this
That's
really, really
beautiful.
interesting take, creationism,
Mhm.
Christianity. That really helped me
Mm.
when I was struggling with, who am I to, I don't have a degree. When I got to Hay House, I told Reed Tracy, the president of Hay House, I need to finish my degree. Like I
Mm.
didn't, I have a background in Jungian psychology, but I never actually finished the degree. And he's like,
Mhm.
no, you don't need to finish your degree. Like you can still have a book deal. I'm like, what? Right? What if I don't have it? What if I have
Mhm.
original ideas? And he's like, I don't
Mhm.
expect you to have an original idea, just an original way of saying the same thing everybody else is saying, because everybody else is thinking they
Mm.
have original ideas when they're not.
Mhm. Right,
So,
which directly answers that second part, who am
right.
I to teach? I mean, who are you not to teach?
Who are
In
you
your
not to teach?
unique way. Yeah.
Exactly, in your unique way. That
Mhm.
doesn't need to be perfect. The only thing that I will say, though, that could be a little controversial for some people, and I'd love to hear some of the people who are listening, what your opinions
Mhm.
are about this. But the idea that somebody really hones their craft over time
Mm.
has been really kind of, it feels to me anyway, a little bit thrown away, that anybody calls themselves an expert. And
Mhm.
there used to be a saying that if you have to put 10,000 hours into something
Mhm.
to call yourself an expert, and a lot of people don't put those 10,000 hours in, they just decide to call themselves an expert.
Yeah,
And
right,
I
yeah.
do think that
Mhm.
that there is a level of commitment to your craft, commitment to your own personal growth and learning,
Mm.
commitment to your education, so that you're always bettering yourself. If you are going to be called to teach others, then you better do your homework. That's
Mhm.
how I feel. So for me, if I've done my work and I'm continuing to work on myself and to learn as much as I can, my filter is clean and I can offer what I can. But, sometimes there's a sense of like, I think the world feels like it's trying to make it like it's like building the plane as it's flying, right? And also, on the seat of your pants, like going out there and
Mhm.
going, "Hey, I could teach you how to be a unicorn."
Mm.
Like, no. So, so I think sometimes imposter syndrome could be a good thing. Like,
Mm.
right? Like maybe I don't know enough. Should I read more? So sometimes that can be actually a really good thing. If you struggle with imposter syndrome, that maybe
Mhm.
it is a call that, well, do you feel that you might want to continue your education while you are teaching? So I think it's a very
Mhm.
nuanced, complicated
Mhm.
conversation that there is no one answer to it.
Right, it's like a call for self-awareness of some level, to look at yourself and say, "Where are you at?
Where am I at?
Where are you at?"
Exactly, and worthiness, right? That where does that
Mm.
come from? Is a sense of
Mhm.
unworthiness. And again, can we acknowledge that we are not here alone, that we have a partner? It's invisible,
Mm.
but it's
Mhm.
it's there. And if we rely on that and we ask for help and guidance, that we do the right thing, that we do no harm,
Mhm.
that we are in some way that conduit. And if we do, then we know that we're still willing to change and make amends and do whatever it takes to better whatever it is that
Mhm.
we're offering. And but ultimately life is a journey of personal transformation, like it or not. So the imposter syndrome, I think, is an important one to address,
Mhm.
as well as it's also an excuse, I think, sometimes for not taking the risk to start something. Like, oh, who am I? Well, who are you not? If you're called to it, you know
And it's a personal, like, what I'm hearing from you is that it's a personal journey to discern what the imposter is telling you,
yeah.
and where they're coming from, fear or, like you said, a lack of some one other little nugget that needs to be in place before moving forward.
I like the fear thing because it is
Mm.
basically blanket fear.
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, who am I to do it?" Well, that's also ego based. It's like where did I read this where he talk about pride in reverse? There's
Mm.
pride. When pride is run
Mhm.
amok, like self-will run riot, then the
Yeah.
opposite of that is that low self-worth where we don't
Mm.
actually make a choice. But somewhere in the middle, that imposter syndrome can come up for anybody.
Mhm.
And like you can just say, listen, I know as much as I know, and this is what I'm willing to impart, and this is what I'm genuinely capable of imparting. But the
Mhm.
other part of that is if we don't just rely on our memory, and we don't
Mm.
just rely on our conditioning, and we don't just rely on the things that we know already, and we
Mhm.
open ourselves up to other potentials that could land on us when we need
Mhm.
it in a moment of inspiration and an epiphany,
Mm.
well, then this whole conversation changes, doesn't it?